Welcome back, everyone, to the reaction end of Action Reaction with me, Zane Simon, and Troy O'Diamonds. And we are here to talk about, having just watched one another's movies, we're here to talk again about childhood trauma. I'm trying to keep tamped down the powerful wave of emotions that I feel, but I feel like I can do a reasonable job of that, having been given a whole new set of emotions to deal with in rewatching Reign of Fire.
Yeah, I feel like we gave you a rich text to find some new ways to feel about things out of this.
Mostly a lot of people who are really sad about dragons.
Yeah, that was kind of a pervasive thing, but also the people who are angry about dragons.
Oh, that's true. There are layers there. Layers that perhaps I didn't give Reign of Fire credit for first time around.
What did you think of this movie, Zane?
You know, I will say it hits most of my strong points for action movies. There's no comic relief.
Yep.
There's no real love interest. There's like a woman he ends up living with, but you know, they don't explore that at all.
Yeah, they're just survivors and shared a drink of water one time.
Yeah, it's not a love story. There's no comic relief, there's no love story, and the kids are limited to a surly teen who dips into the movie for about 2 minutes total of collected screen time to get shouted at for being a surly teen.
Yeah, seems, the right role.
I don't know what I think. Like, there's too much bummer, not enough dragons. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like more dragons would have been more of a bummer. Like, what good came from every scene with them?
True, but like, I don't know. That's kind of the problem with a dragon. I think is that like dragons are cool. You see dragons, and you're like, man, we should have more stuff about dragons and like dragon fighting and how like big dragons are and whatever. Dragons.
Yeah,
dragons. But they're kind of like Superman, if you know what I mean. Where like in theory Superman is awesome. It's like, oh, he can see through walls and he can fly faster than the speed of time and he can go back in time and speed of sound and go back in time and he can lift tons of weight and run faster than a locomotive and whatever. And then you're like, wait, okay,
it's a little bit overpowered.
Yeah, a little bit overpowered. Nothing can actually hurt Superman. And
yeah.
So with a dragon, there's also kind of the same feeling where it's like, well, they basically just have to fuck everyone's shit up, and if you survive, you're really lucky.
Right. Until you have a Matthew McConaughey.
Well, he doesn't help. He just gets eaten.
Well, they kill one of them first.
Okay, they killed one. Of the billion dragons covering the earth, we have evidence that Matthew McConaughey could kill a dragon.
Right. And I think it does kind of speak to your point, because if Matthew McConaughey, we go like 1-to-1 trading these off, then clearly our villain is overpowered.
Yeah. And so I like it's fun. It's not bad. It's just I think the dramatic notes ended up being a bit overwrought for me, and then the action notes are like some cool dragons fucking everything up, and then like, okay, we finally killed one. We're done now.
Yeah, but it was the big one. They killed the big dragon.
I understand that there are some plot points in there to explain why this works and how. But like,
and how it's again very scientifically minded.
That's right, and how they dragons killed the dinosaurs, and this is really, you know, this is. I think what you really have is a tie-in for the Jurassic Park series, where they breed dinosaurs specifically to fight dragons. Now that I would watch the shit out of.
Oh, I am down for that. I mean, I'm pretty sure I said it in the main episode. I still wish there was a Reign of Fire trilogy. And you know what? I kind of like your idea if we go Reign of Fire 2, Jurassic World 2, and then we just like Freddy versus Jason, those two series together.
Yes. And you just have a movie that's all about dinosaurs fighting dragons. I am up for that.
Oh man, the problem is that Reign of Fire lost their main scenery chewing with Matthew McConaughey, so we're probably going to need to introduce another character to go to bat, head for head with Chris Pratt when that comes down.
But yeah, I think they could just go like the Twin Peaks route, where Michael Keaton, they couldn't get him back to play the sheriff. Not that you've seen Twin Peaks, so this is a lost on you. But they just got another guy, and then they wrote his character as Michael Keaton's character's brother.
Okay, sure.
And he just plays the same role.
Yeah, we can do that. And instead of Matthew McConaughey, we have Woody Harrelson. We got a movie.
Or you get like Channing Tatum to play Matthew McConaughey's son.
Sure. Yeah.
Exactly. There are ways to do it.
Yeah. Although I mean, it is very difficult to. How do you feel about the level of McConaughey that McConaughey put into this role?
I honestly could have used more.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, more McConaughey or like more dense of McConaughey-ness? Like more of him leaning into who he is, or just more of him being that?
I think more of him being that, maybe even leaning into it a little harder, because honestly, like I think part of it too is that I don't really get a lot out of Christian Bale's character in that movie.
Yeah, he doesn't really do a whole lot besides say like, oh no, we need to hide and survive. That's the way that we get through this.
Exactly. Like he's there to scream at his kids and scream at everybody else and to run away and then eventually to shoot a bow and arrow. Or crossbow. And it's like he's kind of got this weird like, I don't know how. I mean, Christian Bale is he is British, right? I'm not just imagining that.
No, he is.
Yeah, but he kind of like when he's being British, his accent is somehow more like mush-mouthed.
Yeah, that's true.
It
seems like he's not really focused on his dictation.
Yeah, it's like blood away. You're like.
I hadn't thought about this, but now I really want to see like the scene from Hail Caesar with Christian Bale trying to do the "would that it were?" Like, I don't know if he could do that with his like regular accent.
Oh, it'd be lovely.
Oh man, we need to get a Kickstarter or whatever it takes to get Christian Bale to reenact that scene.
I also got to say, it is really, really, really weird to see Gerard Butler as this like pre-beefcake chirpy Gerard Butler.
Yeah, and doesn't it do? It's a lot better of a character for him, right?
It is. It feels like a much more natural character for him to play.
Yeah, he's kind of doing like the thing that made him into like a romantic comedy star too, but in this like dour action movie. But he has that same sort of charm where it actually fits. And like you said, there's no comic relief, but there is like the charming, smiling Gerard Butler. And like he fits really well in this movie.
He does, actually. Like I guess like I kind of just, part of the movie thing for me is I just don't need Christian Bale in it. Like you could just have Matthew McConaughey and Gerard Butler and I'd be happy.
Yeah, but have you seen every other movie with Gerard Butler in a leading role?
Okay, fair. Yes.
That's part of why I can defend having Christian Bale being pretty forgettable, is because it's not Gerard Butler being aggressively bad.
This is true. Okay, that's fair.
And I mean, there are two other things I want to talk about with Gerard Butler for this. Is one, the Star Wars scene. That's pretty.
Okay.
Seeing it again.
On replay, the Star Wars scene is much cuter because A, it came a lot earlier in the movie that I remembered, and it was a lot briefer.
Right. It's quick, it's charming, and it does show you, like, without putting too many kids in the movie that need to act, they show that there's a lot of kids. Like, there's a reason to be rooting for survival at this place. But they do it in a nice, charming way with Gerard Butler's smile and a fun little kind of just tribute to, like, oh yeah, no, these are the stories we'd tell. And it's nice.
Yeah. That
And
part
the
was better than I remembered. And like the movie didn't have any major like misses. It just didn't somehow, the things it being this sort of dour, forgettable Christian Bale, ineffective Matthew McConaughey thing just didn't capture me at the end of the day.
Right. When the highest high is when they like set up the slow motion shot of Matthew McConaughey finally doing something with that war axe that he's just had for the whole movie, and it doesn't do anything. He just gets ate up. But it doesn't seem like a problem with the character. That seems very in character for him. It just seems like a problem with the script.
Like that would have been a perfect thing to have happen had we got more cool stuff before it.
Right. Yeah, like maybe if he had like hacked up one other dragon earlier with that same axe, then we're like, oh, he's pulling the big card now. This is the thing he uses to like finish it off. And then they subvert our expectations. Then yeah, I feel like that would have really elevated the movie.
But otherwise, I mean, I'm not gonna, it was more fun than I remembered, but it was still just. It wasn't a movie that pulled me. It didn't pull me in as much as post-apocalypse dragon fighting movie really feels like it should pull me in.
Yeah, when you say that, I kind of picture people riding dragons and there only being a few of them left. And maybe we focus on, oh man, what if the road, but dragons?
Now that does sound amazing. Because the road is already dark and dour as fuck, and some dragons would have really livened that shit up.
Well, I just imagine, like, now they actually explain the apocalypse instead of having it be, Cormac McCarthy's vague thing. And, just like throughout the movie, every so often, you'll just see wings in the clouds, and it's just like menacing and awful. And we could probably kind of make it some sort of statement about flying drones over Yemen and how that's just a constant terror to people. I don't know. Maybe it's a movie. Maybe somebody in Hollywood should talk to me about it. Maybe I'm going to write a spec script. But I don't know.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of cocaine themed product placement in your spec script.
That happens every time I talk about writing a script.
So okay, on the flip side then, I want to know how you felt about Brother.
Oh man, the first half of it, I was like, oh, you son of a bitch, again with this. And I admit it, I also started off very negative about it because like the sound engineering in the early scenes is really bad. Like when it's the main character guy talking to his mom, and like she's walking away from the camera, but you can tell that they just like read that line in later because her volume doesn't change. Nothing about it sounds right. That already put me in like a very negative space for this movie. And there were some things from the first half where I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm in. Where it's like when we meet the girls who like the girl who's just like, hey, do you have money in LSD? I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm interested in what's up with her. Let me hear more about her story. But yeah.
So you found the first half to be a slow burn, partially because you're in a bad mood. I get that. Second half, though, where does the break come? Where's this first half, second half break for you? That's what I want to know.
The point where it really got going for me was when his older brother, like the actual established hitman guy, was when they were using him to rat on our main character. That's where the movie turned up for me. And after that, like, yeah, I was into it. It got really good. And I love how many times he repeats, he's like, yeah, I was in the army. Oh no, just a clerk's job, just a desk job. No fucking way. No fucking way was that just a desk job. This guy is so good at murder.
Oh,
And
the
like,
scene where he's like cutting all the nail heads off to refill the shotgun bullets.
yeah,
And there's no reason other than it just hurts people way more. Like that's
right.
he doesn't
Yeah,
need special nail-filled shotgun bullets. It's just like, no, this is gonna hurt people more and do more damage at close range.
right. And he knows, oh, I'm going to saw off the barrel. I'm going to make these heavier pellets in the buckshot. And this is the effect it's going to have. I know how it's going to work. Then he goes and uses it, and it works. It works just the way that he wanted it to, because he knows he's not just some fucking desk clerk. There's no goddamn way. And that to me like changed everything about the movie. Is like, oh, okay, no, this isn't just like some sort of weird guy who doesn't really pick up on social cues. This guy is a cruel murderer who has seen some shit in war and now is just awkward around people too. Like, I don't think there needs to be cause and effect about that. That's just the character. And that's when he became really interesting to me. It wasn't like, sorry, what were you going to say?
I was gonna say, like, I mean, in two, partially, I think the way he interacts with people, it comes off as really awkward, but it's very much like the prototypical how a hero interacts with people. Like,
Yeah, it
what is
kind of
your
is.
problem, and I will solve it. Tell me your problem, and I will find the solution for solving your problem.
Yeah.
Given the real world setting, you're suddenly like, this is super awkward, and you're not really doing anybody any good.
Right. And yeah, although probably my favorite part of the movie was really when that whole thing dawned on me when I I had recognized when he was, like sawing off the barrel of the gun and like putting together the new munitions and stuff. I'm like, okay, no, he's serious about this. I was still thinking like there's a chance, oh, the real world is still kind of the rules in this movie. Maybe like the gun just blows up when he shoots it. Maybe, this is a terrible idea and it's not going to work. Once everything went perfectly to plan, that was when it came in like straight into focus of like, I get who this is now. And when it became meaningful, is after he kills all the guys and saves his brother, and his brother is like all fucked up and screaming and crying and just like, no, it's and the main character is just really calm, kind of smiling. He's like, no, it's okay, it's fine. And he's like, I'm sorry I ratted you out. And it's like, it's okay. You're my brother. You are like my father. And you understand why the older brother is legitimately terrified at this point.
Yeah.
He recognizes that the main guy is a murder machine. He is great at this and clearly doesn't have that much emotional affect about it. It doesn't register that much to him. And I would also be very scared, no matter my relation to that person when he's rampaging. He's already on a rampage.
And everybody like slowly kind of comes to that realization over the movie. Like the chick he's shacking up with, by the time he goes and like just shoots her husband in the leg, he's like, come on, let's get out of here. She's like, what? No, I'm not following you.
Right. And there were so many reasons not to. Like, first off, regular things. This is a troubled family life. It's not great, but just running away with a stranger doesn't solve that. That just creates a whole new host of problems. Running away with this stranger is much worse.
Oh, it is so much like the movie about a child who traumatizes people.
It really is. Oh man.
Well, I'm glad that it found a turn for you. And also, I gotta say, for me, that movie really colors in a strange way your perception of like modern Russia, because it's set in modern Russia in a way that feels like nobody's supposed to find unusual.
Right.
And like the shit, like all these like broken down buildings and these like overpacked, nasty apartment buildings and this super minimalist lifestyle, and there's like these parties where people are just like really, really seem to have this super nihilistic worldview. Like it's all presented with this very like this is all normal and this is fine and like this is how it is, and that's not a big deal. Like we're not presenting this to you as like this is nihilism. It's like no, this is just a party, right? You're
Yeah.
parties.
Yeah, and I felt like they did a really good job of, I don't even want to say keeping it authentic because it's a Russian movie, but you know, all over Russia or in Russian cities, there's tons of very minimalist housing that the Soviet Union built because they needed to have enough housing for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
They just made sure that there were enough units for every body that they had. And so there are a lot of just, this is just a straight up and down rectangle of a building looking like the robot apartments from Futurama. And on the inside, yeah, it is, like you said, it's not nihilistic or intentionally minimalist. It's just very practical, pragmatic. We needed a room for every person, so we made rooms and didn't put much else into it. And it's fine. This is shelter, and we're glad for it.
Yeah, the movie has a lot of that in ways that it's one of the most stylistically jarring movies for me, having seen a lot of foreign film, where I'm just like, this represents a totally different view of day-to-day life than I would be able to handle. And it's yet still a very like modern first world view of day-to-day life. It's I'm going to go buy some CDs and go to McDonald's and go to a concert and hang out with my friends. And it's still like, I can't relate to hardly any of this.
Yeah, there's like the random thug trying to shake down a guy for just having stuff out that he might be about to sell.
Yeah.
Like,
and then nobody's like presenting that as like uncommon or weird or any like, he's not even presented especially as like an overbearing thug. Our hero just walks up, steals his gun, cold cocks him, and then like sits down and starts chatting with people.
Yeah. I think my favorite moment was when after he pulls off the first assassination and the lady that he later ends up shacking up with, who's like running the trolley or whatever, she's like, oh, there's a gunman in the flatbed? Well, I'm driving the trolley. I need to keep driving, right? And just like keeps going and ignores him. I feel like that's the most like, I don't want to say it's just a Russian kind of thing, but kind of in general in cities where it's like, I'm going to keep minding my business, but especially with like, there's just an ethos of, yeah, no, I'm just going to keep moving and doing my part in this. They're there, whatever. It's fine.
It's
not my problem.
It's the personification, or it's like a deeper look at the kind of country that creates hours and hours of, can you believe this actually happened dash cam footage.
Oh yeah.
It's
the perfect, like, do you remember when that huge fucking meteor hit and
there
were people just on their dash cams like maybe turning down the radio a little bit and going, it was just like nobody was registering or like at least audibly registering their shock in any way, even though there's this giant fucking rock falling from the heavens and just streaking through the sky. And you're like, well, I'm still driving.
Yeah. It's something that in the US it would be like everything is shut down for 100 miles in all directions for days. And it would be the only thing that anybody could think of. And this movie it feels like a very, even if it's not the case, even if it's an over exaggeration, even if it's just me extrapolating, it feels like a bit of culture shock in that way of just like these things are just handled differently. And I have to understand that like, this is the kind of like normal action movie that they would make that extrapolates from their normal life.
Yeah, like we're not acting like this movie is a one-to-one for the real Russian experience, but it's definitely something that draws on it and plays off it in a way that feels more relatable to them than it does to either of us, because there's a whole lot going on here where I'm just like, oh, okay, that's a cultural difference. All right.
Yeah. It is. It's an interesting movie. It's definitely one of my favorite Russian action movies. I need to see the follow up. They did a sequel where he goes to America, and
Okay, I knew there was a sequel because like I was just looking it up
yeah,
for I just needed to make sure I had the right movie, and saw that there was a sequel, and then went back to it after I watched, and I guess like one of the opening scenes is them saying like, obviously he wasn't a desk clerk, you dumb fuck, like of course he's some crazy commando. That's if you didn't pick up on that in the first movie, now we're making the subtext text.
yeah. I'm interested to see it. It's as well received, nearly. So for a sequel, that's pretty rare. And I gotta search it out because Brother is one of those like random sort of action gems out there that is, like I say, it's kind of wholly, especially if you're just really into Western action movies. It's kind of wholly unlike anything else. It exists in that same frame as like some of those what is it? It's Thailand, right? Or is it Indonesia? Where did Tony Jaa's Thailand, right? Yeah.
I
That's
believe so.
yeah. It's like those movies that Tony Jaa starred in before he did Ong Bak,
Right.
where they're just like these massive over the top gun extravaganza movies. And you're
Yeah.
like, this is a totally different brand of action movie than we have in the US at all.
Right. And it's I feel like those movies are a little bit more. I don't even know how to say it. They're definitely more extravagant. They're more over the top, where you do
Yeah.
get like the Russian reservedness in Brother.
Yeah. Like I'm just saying that it's a movie that's very reflective of a specific different cultural idea of an action movie,
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas the Russian side, it's this like super reserved thing. And obviously, Russians have made more. They've gone a more Hollywood route as well to make these like, bear man fighting.
Like Guardians? Are
Yeah,
we going to watch Guardians next? Because I watched Guardians, and oh boy, is it a movie! For anyone who doesn't know what Guardians is a movie from 2016 where there's a werebear. It's like a werewolf, but a bear. The guy can turn into a bear, and he has a Gatling gun, and it's amazing. And he's only one of 4 people on the team good guys. And at the end, they somehow randomly learn how to do a Hadouken to kill the evil guy's tower. It's amazing.
What I can't remember. What was it a rip of? Like, what were they trying to? It was like the Russian version of. It wasn't X-Men, was it?
It was kind of Fantastic Four-y.
Okay.
I mean, that's the closest analog. Like, there's an invisible shield woman.
Okay.
And there's I mean, it does kind of blend in because there's like samurai Nightcrawler. There's like X-Men Nightcrawler with swords. It was
supposed to be like a Russian X-Men kind of thing.
Yeah, it was really just throwing everything together. It's fantastic. The bad guy is over the top Bane.
So obviously, Russia can get extremely over the top. We know this, but Brother is the sort of more reserved side. And it's weird, too, because I talk about, like, Rain of Fire being a little dour for me. And then Brother is like, you've made everybody's life shittier. You realize that, right, dude?
Yeah. And although I do feel like there is something to that, in that the dourness of Rain of Fire is very British.
Yeah, it's true. It's very like rainy and gray and shouty, like you should have all obeyed the rules and we would have all been okay. And it's a very British way to go about being dour, whereas the Russian one is just like, yeah, we were all screwed anyway. And look, he's going to go off and have some more adventures, so.
Yeah, and I almost like that there could be like 2 sequels set up from the ending of that movie, where there's the actual sequel with the main character, but then also when he says goodbye to the chick who we first meet, when she says like, yeah, do you have money and acid? And they're just like hanging out in a McDonald's and she's eating a pie and he's like, I want to say goodbye. She's like, all right, my hair's wet. Bye. I would watch a movie about what she does next.
I would too. It's a crazy movie. All right. On that note, we'll be back in just a couple days to talk about. We have another very special episode, right?
Yeah, do we want to jump right into what the theme is going to be? Do we want to tell everyone what the theme is?
Yeah, our very special episode coming up.
It is movies that start with the letter J.
It is not movies that start with the letter J.
It's movies that start with the letter J and then continue on with On Wick. We're doing movies called John Wick.
That's right. We'll be back in just a few days with a very special John Wick episode.
The new one is out. It's on DVD. It's on streaming. Everybody, you've had like 2 weeks to go out and see this at home. Do it. Watch the first one, watch the second one, then do it again because it's worth it. And we're going to be here to talk to you about it next week.
All right. Well, on that note, you can find me on Twitter at TheZaneTime. You can find Troy on Twitter at PDLMMA. You can find us over on SoundCloud, Zane Simon on SoundCloud, frankly. Also, Action Reaction Podcast. And you can find us on YouTube as well. Give us a like, share our shit on YouTube, subscribe to it, all that good stuff. It helps a ton. And we'll be back soon.
Gerard Butler was also in How to Train My Dragon.
Fucking hell. He should, if it didn't have some direct Rain of Fire like lines in it, it should have. That he should have had some like redo lines from Rain of Fire.
It really should have.
Oh.